Hello, I'm Christian, your disruptive chef entrepreneur host. And I know I say this every episode, but you guys gonna love the guy I have here for you today. Not only is he an amazing chef, a good business person, he's also an amazing human being. And he has a gift nobody else was to beat. Let's get into that. Hello again. I'm Christian, your disruptive chef entrepreneur host. I'm really excited to bring Chef Peter Fischbach to our listeners here today. I had the opportunity to meet Peter now, what is it, 15 years ago?
Yep.
Longer. And
Actually,
Peter,
like this month.
yeah. So Peter was always my competition for the companies. We worked actually for two different competitors, and then our company had more money than his, so we bought his, and then we became one. And I loved having Peter on the team as we started out. Not only is an amazing culinary, and he's a very good business person. Not only is he a very good business person, he's an amazing designer. He's an amazing planner. But more than that, he did something very few people can do. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. He wrote 4 books in 8 weeks. And that's just unbelievably amazing. So, with that, Peter, give our listeners a little bit an introduction of who you are.
Sure. How you doing? My name is Peter Fischbach. I own Fischbach Enterprises, which is a food service consulting business. We do primarily design and build work for restaurants. We do efficiency studies. We do branding. We do menu development, staff training. You name it, we do it. One of my specialties, because I'm OCD, is efficiency. I am obsessed with not wasting a single step in a process when you're doing something.
That's awesome. Not only he's super handy, he just redid his backyard, I think last summer. And I curiously lived through his progress, what he did with his, because I wanted to do mine and I never got to it. But it's amazing to have you here, Peter, and talk a little bit about the industry. And then I'll let you talk a little bit about what you're up to with some of the new stuff. But talk to us, how did you get started in the industry? How did you get into food?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. My parents got divorced when I was young, and my brother and myself lived with my mother. My mother was a single mother and worked in a restaurant as a waitress. And I was such a terrible kid that she could never get somebody to watch both of us. So she was forced to bring me to work with her. And in exchange for me being there, I was thrown in the dish pit and had to wash dishes for free. So they'd both be in jail today, but that's what it was back then.
I love that. I love that. And how long did it take you to realize, shit, I'm actually good at this stuff?
Well, initially I hated it. I was 12, and I hated doing dishes. I thought it was awful. And I would do the dishes as fast as I could, and then I would run over and then watch them cook. And obviously, as you know, no old school chef or any chef wants you standing around. So they then turned me into prep. And as I was doing prep, I really saw what was going on and watching um, the culture of the kitchen and the high pace and everything. I thought it was awesome, and I just fell in love with it from that point.
It's been amazing. So you have a really, amazing career through starting out. Talk to us a little bit how it was getting into becoming your first executive chef, because there's a lot of listeners in listening to this podcast and they're watching this show, which know they're ready for their first executive chef position. First off, how did you get that position, and how did you work around that first go around?
So I will say this: every young chef is obsessed with being an executive chef, and that's like the pinnacle of all pinnacles for the young chefs. And a lot of times that leads into chasing a title that really isn't what it is, and getting a position that you're really not suited for. And because somebody's offering you the carrot and the stick. And when you get that position initially, if you're in the wrong spot or not with the right people, you end up chasing the carrot only to get beat with the stick. So that was my experience, and I actually wrote a book about this that just came out. It's actually called "Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fryer: The Journey Chefs Should Never Take," and it
Yep.
really talks about the experience of getting experience and not rushing to be something, building that foundation. Um, but the my first experience was a little bit of chasing the carrot, somebody offering me a position, and me being overzealous and overstating my capabilities, and then getting that position and being able to do it. Because anytime I've ever in my career, if I said I could do something, I was very confident that I could do it. I would
Hmm.
never say something that I didn't think I could do, whether I've done it or not.
Yep. Yep.
While I was doing that position, I really realized that I wasn't the executive chef. I couldn't fire people, I couldn't hire people, I couldn't give people raises. I was a glorified cook that worked a million hours with a phony title, is what it ended up being. And then actually, as I grew, I took a step back and I realized what was going on. I then went to be a sous chef for a couple people and worked in a lot of different places as a sous chef to gain that experience. And then I pursued becoming an executive chef on my terms, not chasing,
Yeah.
making sure, when it was time to be the executive chef, that I was the one that was actually conducting the interview as much as they were interviewing me. I
Yep.
wanted to
Yep.
know what their plans were, what their growth plans were, what their plans for me were, what exactly my duties would be, what kind of authority I would have, and all of that type of stuff to make sure that my wants and needs fit their wants and needs, and we can
I,
forge together as a
I
group.
love that. I love that because there's so many chefs. You're absolutely right. Chasing that, what, I have the opportunity to be the executive chef. They don't do the kind of homework you just talked about. So if a chef gets into that first position, what are some of the tips, tricks, or advice you would have for that person to be successful being the first time executive chef?
The very first thing is to walk into the place and look at the place. Look at the kitchen. What type of condition is the kitchen in? If you're working for somebody that's a good owner, the place should not be in disarray or disrepair. Look at the
Yep.
walk-ins. The walk-ins should be neat and organized. A good owner would never allow somebody to not have that,
Very
because
true.
all of your money is made in the walk-in. If
Hmm.
it if it's if it's too full, you're not making money. If it's not full enough, you're not making money. If you have stuff that's not being reutilized or scraps being repurposed, you're not making money. So understanding how long they've been in business, you know, what they do with their personal life,
Hmm.
talk to them about your personal life. See if you have like interests, fishing, biking, whatever it is. Get to know them and really talk to the employees. Interview the employees. How long you been here? How do you like it? What do you like? What don't you like? The employees are going to tell you. They're going
Yep.
to tell you what the owner isn't going to tell you, or the owner may not even know, depending on
Very true.
what type of owner that is. There's plenty of people that own restaurants and they own multiple and they don't spend a lot of time in them. So they may not know everything that they think they know. So interview the employees. That's your opportunity. When you're there, talk to the people. Find out how many executive chefs have been here. How long
Hmm.
is the turnover? How long have you been here? Those types of questions matter. That's your opportunity to really assess the situation and understand what you're getting yourself into.
I mean, it's so true, and a lot of people don't want to do it because they're so worried about if I come across too forward or too strong that I wouldn't get the chef's job. So I know I interviewed many executive chefs in my career. Nobody ever asked me these questions. So for you, what do you feel made you so successful? Because at one point you ran $100 million division for one of the largest food service companies in the world. How was that like for you? Having multiple locations, multiple states. A lot of chefs are interested in pursuing that avenue. How did you make that work for yourself?
So for me, it was relatively easy because I tend to oversimplify things. I look at things as numbers are numbers. Numbers don't
Hmm.
lie. If you know your numbers and you understand your percentages and you know how business works, it doesn't matter if you have one or 100 places. You know, um, Understanding how to engage people is key. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and you need to be able to have the skill set to develop those around you, empower those around you to do the things that need to be done, support them how they need to be supported. But you can't
Hmm.
be a micromanager. You need to have that 50,000-foot view so you can have perspective of the whole operation. If you're standing on the ground looking at what's in front of you, you only have your perception of what you see. You don't have the full 360-degree view. And that's
Yeah.
key. understanding that what you see isn't the whole picture, and no matter what scenario. Um,
For sure.
and investing time. You got to invest the time in developing those around you, because everybody through, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people, especially through my career, always had the mindset of, well, if I have to show you, I might as well just do it myself. No, that's the wrong mindset, because you can only do so much yourself. So at some
Mhm.
point, you're going to have to show me, because at some point, you're going to need me to do it. And then I'm not going to be able to do it correctly because you didn't show me. And then you're going to have to make the time to come back and fix my mistakes. So you either invest the time up front and train the people properly so that they can operate adequate and efficiently, or you invest the time to come clean up their mistakes, which are now costly because you've paid the person that you didn't train to do something the way it wasn't supposed to be done. And now you're taking your time away from what it was that you're doing to come back and fix what they should have been shown to do correctly the first time. And then you're going to have to train them anyway. So
Yeah.
the
And
I don't have time mentality is the cancer of our culture.
excuse me, that's really well said. And then, so you were in that position, running $100 million dollar division, having a few hundred chefs reporting into you. How did you make that pivot from being an employee to a business owner? You have a very successful consulting company out with the Fisher Enterprises. What what was going on in your mind, and help our listeners to understand, because again, there's a lot of chefs out there which feel, you know what, I meant to do more. I feel like there's a gift I have I want to bring out to the marketplace. How do you make that pivot?
So the decision was kind of made for me, which was a good thing, because, you know, most people are driven by fear or greed.
Yep.
All right. You're either afraid or you're hungry and greedy and want more than you have.
Hmm.
So for me, I've owned several prior to that, I've owned a few restaurants, several catering businesses, Italian specialty stores. So I knew what it was to be an owner. And at the time, I had just had, my second child, and I was looking for stability. And I stayed in the food service realm working for that company, and I was with them for about 15 years, and it was a good 15 years. But I never felt fulfilled. I always wanted to do something more, and I always had a little side gig of doing consulting here or there when it fit my schedule.
Yep.
And in 2019, um, after my 5-year contract with them was basically up, they eliminated my position. And at first, I was devastated and I was nervous, how I was going to pay for everything and
Yep.
whatever. And then I spent a week just reflecting and thinking, and I was like, you know what? This is the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it's going to allow me to do the things that I was apprehensive to do that I knew I could do. Um, and it kind of lit the fire under my butt to pursue those things. And, if you're capable of managing and directing, a division of $100 million, $120 million in revenue, with 2,700 employees, 22 locations, you sure as shit can do it for yourself. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Agreed.
If you can do that for somebody else, why can't you do it for yourself? And the answer is most people are just afraid.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And you've been to a few times to our mastermind group, because there's a lot of people talking about starting something. There's a lot of people talking about working for themselves. There's a lot of people talking about, I want to have money freedom, time freedom, and you can do this by working for yourself. How do you help us, your mindset around that? Help us to understand what goes through your mind and how you make that decision, saying, you know what, I'm all in. And you said it earlier that you always had a side hustle on the side. When did that side hustle for you then became full time, besides what happened with your position with that company?
So I really decided, immediately, I had a lot of, as soon as people found out that I was no longer there, I had a tremendous amount of job offers. And I took the time and I said, you know what? I'm going to take the next 6 months and decompress and think about exactly what I want to do, map out my options, understand my options. I'm not immediately going to go work for somebody again. I want to be the master of my own destiny and not have anybody dictate what my outcome is going to be other than myself,
Mhm.
you know? So I decided that I was going to bet on myself. I'm not a gambling person. I bet. And the distinctive difference is when you bet, you're generally, you know, if you're playing a round of golf with somebody and you make a bet with them, I'm going to beat you. You know, I'll beat you, whatever. That destiny is in your own hands. You are the person that is in control of that. When you
Mhm.
gamble, you are gambling on odds that you don't control.
Yeah.
So I'm a betting man. I'm going to bet on myself every time. I'm going to bet on my abilities because I know what they are and I know what I'm capable of. I'm not going to gamble. So I wanted to take that 6 months, have a really good thought process, understand what I was capable of, and more importantly, what I really wanted to do. Did I want to open a restaurant? Did I want to open a catering business? Did I want to, you know, and then why? Why did I want to do that? Or why didn't I want to do that? And come to the common denominator of what it was I really liked and enjoyed doing.
Mhm.
And for me, it was a combination of creating things and opening things, not necessarily the operations end. Um, and the helping people get better at what they do, helping people realize where their shortcomings are and giving them the ability to correct those.
Mhm.
So that's why I went into the consulting avenue, because that allowed me to really put my passion and love into creating things for people, as well as taking the avenue of going into existing places and looking at what they're doing and figuring out how or why, you know, they're not doing well, or how, for people that are doing well, how they can scale or do better.
Mhm. I love what you said because for me, it's really clear. I honestly believe the reason, not just chefs, any entrepreneur fails. There's something, you know, a little exercise I do, which I call my non-negotiables. So my non-negotiables is, you know, I want to work with people which I love to personally hang out with. I money aside, because it doesn't matter how good the money is if you don't enjoy working for them. And then for me, I
100%.
go through my list of non-negotiables. I want to be in charge of my own time. I have, you know, three adopted children, and we adopted them on purpose. And I want to be able to spend time with them. So for me, going through those non-negotiables is a lot easier to know what I'm going after, and that's something we always ask other chefs or other entrepreneurs to do. So, what were some of your non-negotiables in that conversation? Because if you call it a non-negotiable or a must or a standard, it's all the same. What were some of yours where you said, "Hey, if I work out on my own, these are the things I will never do," or "Hey, these are the people I want to work with."
Yeah. So the biggest non-negotiable for me was time.
Mhm.
You know, um, I can always make money. You can't make more time.
Agreed.
And I spent a good chunk of my life um, working and doing things for others and not being able to enjoy my time. You know, I had one point I had like 5 weeks vacation and I would only take one.
Yep.
You know, for what? I can never get that back. You know, so what I come to realize is you don't need as much money as you think you need initially. You know, when you start looking at purchasing, and this is how I restructured myself to be able to get out there and do what I wanted to do until I can grow and get to the point where I wanted to be, was every time I make a purchase, I look at the cost of that purchase and then I equate it to time.
Hmm.
How many hours of my life did I have to give up in order to pay for that? And is that really worth that much time of my life? And once I got to that point
Yep.
and you started rationalizing things in that nature, then you're like, no, that's not worth purchasing. It's not worth 70 hours of my life to be able to get whatever that is, you know? And then that makes it easier. And then you can whittle away at what you really need to be able to get out there and go all in and cut out the things that are non-essential
Mhm.
initially.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a big thing, is time. I need to be the master of my time. I need to be able to, if I want to go to Europe for 3 weeks, I'm going to Europe for 3 weeks. If I want to take 10 days off, I'm taking 10 days off. If I don't feel like doing something today, I'm not going to do it today. I want to be the master of my time. Um, and being, you know, obviously you have to be respectful to the clients that you have
Yeah.
and respect their time as well. So when I'm bidding on business, I look at, okay, this business is going to take me X, Y, and Z. I have these other two clients. It's not, by taking that person, yeah, the money is good, but my time is more valuable and I'm not going to get the time back. And that doesn't, the time is the bigger
Mhm.
return on investment for me.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I always connected with you on this because I feel the same way. For me, time is our most valuable commodity, and for me, I treat time accordingly. And for me, speaking around time, I want to kind of pivot into you writing 4 books in 8 weeks. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process and how did you make that pivot from being not just a entrepreneur, from now being a published author and writing 4 books in 8 weeks?
Yeah. So initially, when you told me about the class, I was like, you know what? I want to check this out because I started trying to write a book all the way back in 2008, and I would get so far, and then it would, get kicked to the back burner, and then again in 2009, 11, 12, so on and so forth. And then when I got into your class and I saw how easy it was and how the majority of the hurdles are all the ones that are mental,
Hmm.
which is pretty much in most cases with pretty much with everything. Once you get past that mental hurdle and you're like, I'm all in, I'm going to do this. And you had told me that you had, somebody that wrote a book in 48 or 54 days. I was like, I'm going to beat that because, that's just the type of person I am. I set that goal. And then once I realized that, I do have the time, the biggest thing was
Hmm.
for me, I don't have the time to do this. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. The time is not the issue. We are we are what we choose to do. We are what we choose to spend our time on. So for me, it was getting up an hour earlier and dedicating that extra hour to the book, spending, an hour less a week on social media and dedicating
Hmm.
that to the book. And you can find plenty of hours throughout the day. And it doesn't all have to be an hour. It could be 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And then as I was writing the book, you know, you always one of the key things that stuck in my head was, you saying a book doesn't have to be just one book, it could be multiple books. So what I did is I took the template that you provided, as you already know, and I told you I was going to be the Henry Ford of book writing, and I took that template and I made several books with the same exact format, the same number of pages, the same number of recipes,
Yep.
and I started as I was writing one book, other ideas would pop up in my head, and instead of derailing the book I was working on, I would plug those ideas onto a template in another book and then focus on this book.
Hmm.
And then as I was writing, continuing the write, I would see that okay, I have other ideas, and I would plug that into the template of another book. So as I was working on the one book, I was throwing bits and pieces into other
I love
books.
that.
So now, as I finished the one book, I already had 25% of another book done, 10% of another book done, and that's the format that I pretty much use now.
Yep.
Is
And
instead of getting sidetracked and going through and putting all these things that aren't 100% pertinent to the book that I'm currently working on, but they will be a good book, I throw them someplace else so I don't have to spend as much time editing.
mhm. and
Um,
and for me, is you said something really pivotal. As we started this book writing thing, for me, I always said there needs to be a lazy man's way of writing books. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but my wife always said, she says, "You're the laziest writer I ever met," because I was like you. I had my book 9 years in the making, and then I was sitting there and I was editing. And I think you know that story. I was for 6 months. Every time I uploaded it, it came back. The margins are off. And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? The margins are off." And I kept editing it all night. And at the time I had 154 pages, and editing 154 pages takes a long time. Uploaded it.
yes,
It takes 3 days at the time to get something back and says, "Oh, margins are off." And then I got so frustrated. I said, "There must be an easier way." And my wife said, "Why don't you fucking make an easy way?" And I was like, she's right. You know what? She's right. And that's how this whole thing started. And then the interesting thing was, I had, just like you, my book was, I wanted to write about all of these things. And I read a New York Times article. And that was back in 2000, in 2020. And the New York article, it says that book reading or book consuming is changing, and they refer to something called a weekend reader. So there's people becoming weekend readers, and weekend readers are less than 200 pages. I was like, oh man, I kind of a light bulb went off. I
Right.
was like, why don't we do this? And that's how our format became. And it was great having you through it. But writing 4 books is absolutely amazing. Can you talk to us about how was the process writing the book? And then I'm curious if you can share as much you want to share. What was the monetary impact for you having a book?
So the process was extremely easy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was extremely easy, and the weekly calls were great because it for some people, myself, probably 60% of the time I need somebody to, in my mind, hold me
Yep.
accountable. Most of the time it's my wife, but in other instances I need, a mentor or somebody, and it's a driving force. So having that, and then having you and Eric, at the at our fingertips to be able to ask questions and get results. And I'm having difficulty with this. How do I do that? Oh, here's this information. And the information was great. It was useful. It was simplified. And it really streamlined the process and made it easy. I mean, I'm a guy that loves now. I actually love writing books.
Yeah.
I have 7 published, and I have like 12 more in the works. Um,
and,
so
and
that's
I told you that
it's a big,
because that's what it becomes. Because when I, for me, if any of the listeners out there interested in writing a book, there's 3 reasons why you need to write a book. Number one, a book allows you to become an overnight, I don't want to call it a success, but an overnight expert in anything you do. The second thing is it allows you to get your ideas, your vision out to the marketplace. And for me, the biggest one is number 3, it exposes who you are. So if you are genuinely somebody who does shortcuts all the time and you want to do shortcuts in writing a book, you will never get the book done. If you are genuinely somebody writing a book who says, fuck it, I'm doing it all by myself, you will never get that book done. Because a book, you need help. And you could do it on your own. I spent 9 years, spent a few $1,000s. I took 6 courses, and thought I only took 3, but my wife reminded me that I actually took 6 courses in book writing, spent $45,000, and she says, you never got the book done. And then says, I probably need to just one more course. She says, no, you got to fucking do it. And then, it exposes who you are. And then the final thing is when you finish your first book and hey, with an hour and a half a day, I can do it. And then it kind of becomes fun because as you go out there, and I love this with your books, whatever you see in the marketplace, and I love the motivational book you just had, or the 30 Days No Bullshit, for me, it shows, hey, that's what the market needs. And it's really easy to react on it on a 120-page book. If I do the formal
yeah.
publishing, it takes a super long time and it's expensive. And that was for me another reason. What we helping with our program is we want people to write a book, not the book. And hopefully your big book about you is coming, but get to the marketplace what the market needs. And weekend readers, I will never forget this from the New York Times articles, was like people consuming books as weekend readers. So for you did some amazing stuff with your first book. Can you share with us a little bit? What was without giving us exact numbers, what was the monetary, not just the impact you had as a businessman, what was the monetary impact of having a book?
so there's a lot of advantages. So within the first 6 months of me writing the book, I got a email from somebody, because a store in New Jersey called Just Jersey, and they're always looking for stuff made or done in Jersey. And they saw my book on Amazon and they emailed me, and they were the very first person to put my book in a store.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked me, "Oh, do you have these sauces and rubs? Sound amazing. Do you have any of those?" I was like, "No." I was like, I was kicking around making them. They're like, "If you make them, we'll definitely put them in the store." So with that, I made a rib rub and a barbecue
Love it.
sauce exactly out of the book. If you follow the recipe in the book, it's there. And now this is for sale in Just Jersey and a couple other stores and online, and it's been doing very well. So just from within 6 months, I had somebody asking me to make something for their store in my book, from my book. Also within 6 months, I had 3 events where I brought in over $140,000 from the events because of the book. They saw the book. They wanted to do a staff appreciation. It was for like 500 people.
Yep.
I did that. The staff appreciation was so good. They asked me to do a barbecue event for like 2,000 people. Then I had another barbecue event for 3,500 people. And they bought, I customized a page in their book. So I gave them a day. They gave me a logo and a note to the staff. I took my dedication page out. I put that in for them. They bought like 250 books. And as soon as they bought the books, I took it offline, put my original book back up, and they sold 250. I sold 250 books at the one event.
And that's exactly how to do it. And we laughing about it now, but it's really hard. And I think for us, maybe teaching the course, we need to pivot a little bit because we know what's possible having a book. And for me, sitting there and telling you, at the time we went to this speaking engagement, and I was part of this family dinner. The one of their children said, "Hey, can you come to Brown University? Brown University wants to have somebody giving a presentation on how to give a presentation." And I said, I'm not great at it, but I give it 100%. And he says, we don't have a lot of money. We can only give you $3,400. I said, don't worry about it. It's not about the money. And then what we did is we actually took one of the books, which was one of our journals, and we customized that, how to take notes on a presentation, how to give a presentation. This is one of the things we teach, make journals. And so I made $6 a journal at the time. And as I presented to them, the school said, perfect, we buy 1,000 journals. I was like, yeah, it's better than getting the $3,400. They look good. They said, oh my God, thanks. You, the kind of speaker we had. Thank you for not taking, and be more than happy to buy the 1,000 books, the journals. And so we had it on every seat. We had the journal, and people could take notes on how to take a presentation. And that's the little things what we teach in that course is exactly that. The book in Amazon, who cares how many people buy it on Amazon? That's not where it's at. But where the opportunity lies is the opportunity and the doors a book can open. So if there's anybody listening here, if it's with us or anybody else, you got to go and write your own book. What is an advice you would give to somebody who is like you, having 15 books in the back of your mind, 6 of them on the shelf, never finished? What is advice you would give to somebody like that?
Just pick one and do it. Start with the simplest one, dumb it down as much as possible, because once you get that one first book finished, then you realize that you can do it, and then it becomes easier. It's no different than when you're trying to, first start working out to get healthy and you're not enthusiastic about it, and you set that small goal of, okay, today I'm going to walk a half a mile. And you do that half a mile and you're like, wow, that half a mile actually wasn't bad. Tomorrow I'm going to walk a mile.
It's the same principle. And
it's literally the same thing. And you just take the small bites, but just do it. Mm-hmm. Do it. And if you're looking for the reasons why you don't have time to do it, you're already failing, because you're not looking at how can I do it. Don't spend the time on, why you can't do it. Spend every second thinking about how you are going to do it. The mindset is everything.
It's so true, because we teaching now in the course, go from the how to the who, because the moment you get stuck in the how, you get in a rabbit hole, you never get it done. Find out somebody who can help you. So go from how to the who, because if you find the right who, they can help you get this book done. So that's been, by the way, I'm just looking at the clock. We try to stay within a half hour. We over half hour. I can talk to you forever. But before we finish up, I have a few questions for you. My team put together 3 rapid fire questions we're going to ask you in the end. But Peter, you had a really successful career, from successful chef, being the vice president of $100+ million. And I want to emphasize $100+ million. It's a lot of money, not just from a purchasing side, from a standard side. You've been really, really successful in that. You pivot to a business owner. You're very successful in that. Now you pivoted into a writer, and you make multiple 6 figures on your books as a writer. First off, what's next? But what is an advice you have for somebody who said, hey, I want to be like Peter?
I'm going to tell you that just figure out what it is that you love to do, and then understand why it is that you love what you love to do. and then map it out. This is what I love to do. And then the most important thing with anything that you do in life is the understanding of the why. Why is it? Because that why will lead you to other things and other avenues. Understanding the why, whatever it is that drives you is going to be the linchpin to your success. So figure out what it is that you love, figure it out why it is, and then figure out what you want to do, what your ultimate goal for life is. Is it to be a millionaire? Is it to have a lot of time? Is it both? What is it that you want? And then just start walking down that path. Don't think about why you can't get there. That's a complete waste of your time and energy, and it gets you nowhere. Think about every reason of how you're going to get there. Mindset is everything.
I agree. And, my t-shirt for you, because Peter always gives 100%. So this good advice, always give 100% unless you're giving blood. Then 100% is a terrible idea. But otherwise, always give 100%. So Peter, doing all the things you do, give us a little bit of glimpse. What else you're working on? What's next for you?
So what's next for me? Right now, just writing books. I have some really good key clients that we're kind of on autopilot with right now. We got a lot going on. We just crossed a big hurdle. There's a lot of growth happening, and because of that, you know, because of the things that I've done, I've been offered back end pieces of businesses. Um, just through doing what I do and delivering results. So for me now is to just write more books and enjoy the time that I never took the time to enjoy.
Yeah.
I want to spend my time traveling. Um, you know, and the book, is a great way to travel, because if you're writing a book about Italy and you go to Italy, it now becomes a tax deduction because so I just did that. We're writing a really nice book about our family history from Italy.
Yep.
My wife and I went to Italy for like 14 days. We did a lot of history, understood a lot of history, took cooking classes, and that's really going to help my book along. But because of that, and I took a tremendous amount of photos that'll be in the book. I'm going to use that as a
Yeah.
deduction for my research and development.
Now that's absolutely amazing. So before we wrap up, where can people find you, Peter? So if people want to know a little bit more about Peter Fischbach, where can they find you?
So you can just Google my name and a lot will pop up, or you can go to my website, which is my name, peterjfischbach.com. Yeah.
So obviously we will have in the show description, we have all the information how to get a hold of Peter. If you're interested to learn a little bit more, please look him up. He's amazing in what he does. If you are currently a business owner and you think you need a little bit of help with some consistency in the back of the house, I encourage you to reach out to Peter. He's amazingly good in what he does. And then also, if you have the urge to write a book, we actually starting the program up again. We have on the 15th of this month, which is February, just in a few days. On Thursday, we're going to launching the book course. We do it 4 times a year, but that's our spring launch. We're really excited to get that going. So if you're interested, go to bookwriter.club and sign up. Also, if you enjoy this show, please make sure you like it, make sure you share it with your friends, send it to somebody who can benefit from listening to the information you heard today. And please go to disruptivechef.club, which is our private community. They have a front row seat of all cool things we do. They are also the ones that they know already that we have this book course coming up. We have another new course we just launched. They also were the people which get to experience it first. So if you could please go to disruptivechef.club, become part of our community. We absolutely would love to have you. So with that, Peter, 3 rapid fire question. Mackenzie from my team has some 3 very special questions for you. And so let's get into that. So first question she had is, Peter, what is a kitchen tool you feel is overrated and why?
Overrated. I'm going to say the immersion circulator.
Yeah, why? By the way, you just made a lot of people very mad because of that. Why?
Listen, I have 6 of them. I love them, but it's definitely overrated, because I think that while it's fun and there's a lot of advantage to it, to me, it's more practical to focus on just traditional technique. And while it makes our life easy, I think in some cases it makes it a little too easy.
Yeah, true. Second question is, Was there ever a time where everything went wrong, but it turned out perfect?
Yeah, pretty much every day. That's how life works.
Fucking love
You
it.
know,
That's awesome. So,
it's true. Every day you're gonna fight. You're gonna encounter things that just aren't right,
mm,
and it's the things that are gonna determine how it turns out, and if it turns out right, are your attitude.
absolutely.
Your attitude is everything and anything in life. That is the biggest and most impactful thing that you can have in your life is your
Uh,
attitude. If it's good, things are going to be good. If it's bad, they're going to
I
be bad.
totally agree. I always tell my kids, if you go out and you looking for what's wrong, it's always available,
You're going to find it.
and you don't need to look hard. So absolutely, totally agree. Last question is, if there is a ingredient and you giving the power to ban it forever, what is that ingredient and why?
Let's see. An ingredient that you would ban forever.
We had
Uh,
ketchup, we had salt, we had chef's egos. So we had a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm going to say for me, it would be any mayonnaise that is not Hellman's because it's not mayonnaise.
Okay, you just made a lot of people very mad about that because there's some other believers out there, but I really appreciate it. So, with that, Peter, I want to say thank you for being here. Thanks for giving of the gift of your time and sharing so freely with our audience. And to our audience, if you would please go to the show notes below, make sure you check out what Peter is up to. And if you ever need any help running your business more efficiently, he needs to be the top of the line of your list to call. So, with that, I want to say thank you for being here today. Thanks for listening. Until next time, remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, your disruptive chef, entrepreneur, host, signing off. With that, I want to say be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Thanks, everybody.